I wrote, started to write How to Cook Everything Vegetarian because I thought, not because I was a vegetarian, because I'm not, but because I thought I wanted to know more about the world of plants. And that sort of led to my thinking about, well, what is the world going to be like? How does agriculture work? And so on. And then in 2006 or 2000, I think in 2006, maybe 2007, there was an FAO report called Livestock's Long Shadow that documented the relationship between industrial animal production and greenhouse gas production. And so you put that together with all the nutritional stuff about red meat being, let's say, red meat being not good for you. It's hard to say that it's bad for you, but too much red meat is probably bad for you. And also the whole hyper-processed food thing. And we were at that point already in the middle of what's sometimes called the obesity epidemic. In any case, many more people weigh much more than they used to. And that's largely because of surplus of non-nutritional or low nutritional calories and a super aggressive marketing campaign by the food industry. And you put all that stuff together and it's a pretty damning picture. And it's hard, it's hard to be hopeful about this sometimes. And there are a lot of people who think we're headed for, nutritionally we're in rough shape, and there are twice as many, at this point there are twice as many, there's two kinds of malnutrition. So there's still close to 1 billion people in the world who are malnourished in the more classic sense of they're not getting enough micronutrients. There are stunted children, and there are people who are underweight, and there are people who have nutritional deficiency diseases and so on. But there's 2 billion people in the world who are malnourished in another way, which is to say they eat way too much bad food, and as a result are overweight and or have chronic diseases that are avoidable, preventable, and they're preventable by a decent diet. And yet it's so hard to, I could ask you this question, I ask everybody this question, which is, how do we make sustainability, how do we make a cooperative society in which we understand that resources are limited, in which we understand that equality among humans is and needs to be a real thing, in which we understand that growth is not the primary goal of society. How do we make that a hip concept? I don't know. How do we make that a concept that people believe in and act upon? And I don't know. I'm not saying no one does.
Yeah, but people are talking about it more.
People are talking about it more. But if you listen to Bill McKibben or other climate change experts, this is becoming a juggernaut that's going to be at some point impossible. Maybe we're already past the turning point, but at some point impossible to stop. And sea level rise is already a real thing, but it's going to get worse. And
meat demand coming out of China, and this new class coming up. And as we've seen in movies like Cowspiracy, you can do everything but tell people what not to eat. That's something
you also have trouble telling them what not to drive. I mean, there's a lot of things you can't tell people to do.
True.
And I think food is one aspect of this thing. People don't like to be told what to do, and I understand that, but I think it's also worth understanding that government began as a cooperative effort among people, and that it will work if it's a cooperative effort among people. It doesn't work if it's an oligarchy, which is what we see, here and in the States, and in so much of the world. So, food isn't, to me at this point, when I started my Times opinion column, I saw food as an in to be able to talk about other issues. I mean, it's certainly worth talking about food. I still think it's worth talking about cooking, for that matter. But food is also a way to address the environment and labor issues and immigration issues and almost every serious issue you can think about.